So people can get hurt if we don't do our job right. Okay? So we've got to be out in the field listening to people. In a consumer world, it's the other way around. You're going to have a customer advocate or someone like that who's probably a sort of marketing person, or probably someone that does consumer engagement. They probably do a lot of it through online surveys and things. But you know, the product owner, there is really in many ways not a product manager as such, because you're creating hypotheses, remember, not gathering requirements. So it works in quite a different way. Okay? Okay, so the product marketing person is really a very, very different character. Whereas, if you think about this, the difference between the two is fairly simple. The product manager is there to listen. The product marketer is there to tell. So I'm telling you that we have the best headache pill in the world, in the market. And I'm telling you that I understand your needs and it will make your headache go away quickly. So, therefore, my message has to be consistent. A brand has to have a very consistent message all the time. You trust it because it is a brand. You trust it because that type of car is the type of car you've always bought, right? You trust Spotify will get you the right music, blah, 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 blah. So that's what brands are all about. This person knows their market extremely well. They have probably gone and met with and engaged with the market. Stay with it, dude. You can make it. They are knowledgeable about what the market cares about, what the consumers want, whoever it is. They're very tight on budget, and they're able to write really, really good, compelling content very quickly. We had a guy called Eddie that we hired in our office in Chicago. Eddie was a journalist. He's absolutely brilliant at writing blogs and content like that. What we discovered was our best route to market was through LinkedIn. And through the creation of this blog. And he created a person called Henry, high earner, not rich yet. This was Henry, and Henry was a consumer, and he profiled Henry, and he wrote stories about Henry and how Henry would go into good shops and bad shops, and what good consumer engagement looked like and what bad consumer engagement looked like. And it was really popular. I mean, incredible number of downloads of that blog. So product marketing does all that kind of stuff. They're responsible for generating leads, okay? So I showed you on the results slide that our pipeline grew 4 times, and that was their responsibility. They're making sure that the public sees the same qualities and attributes of the brand the whole time. They'll talk to analysts. Analysts are funny people who go around doing research on people's software. Gartner is the best known one. There's quite a lot of them. And people like me have to spend a lot of time doing interviews with these people so that they write nice things about you, so your more customers buy your shit, you know. And we position the company. We position the company versus the opposition. And in one of the other lectures, you'll learn how to do that. Yeah, so we're making sure it's consistent, it's out there, people understand it, and I always go and buy that brand because I know I can rely upon it. Okay? All right. So, remember the mantra, we must build what the market wants and we must deliver it to the market in the way that the market wants it. So when we get inside one of these sprints, I told you we have a thing called a product definition group, okay? Now in the case of workplace, if this is our 8 weeks from here to here, what we do is, 4 weeks before that, we hold our product definition group, okay? Leading up to that point, we've been gathering the user stories, and the product manager has sat down with the engineering manager, and we've done what are called t-shirt sized estimates. So for each of these problems we have to solve, or stories we have to satisfy, we know if it's a small, medium, large, extra large, whatever. And that is an estimate, very roughly. This is a 5-day job, this is a 50-day job. Yeah? We always have a constraint. So if you remember, I said to you that we do 3 2-week sprints. We have 5 working days in a week. We therefore have 10 working days in a sprint. If I have 10 engineers, I have 10 times 10 engineering days. So I have 100 days. If I have 2 user stories, and one of them is 50 days and one of them is 70 days, I cannot complete both those tasks in that sprint. So I have to decide which one I'm going to build. Let's say it's a 70-day one, and I can then go and find 6 other 5-day stories and build them. Because 6 5 is 30, and 30 plus 70 is 100, and I can probably build that. Okay? I know this sounds simplistic, I'm not patronising you, but that is the maths that you have to go through. Okay? And so when we build our software, we have to fix something. So you usually cannot vary the resources. It takes 3, 4, 5 months to hire a good engineer. And it then takes another 3 months or so for that engineer to become really productive. So you're looking at like 6 months plus. So if I've got an 8-week planning cycle, I can't increase my capacity, can I? So my capacity is fixed. So that point there is absolutely fixed. So either I vary what I build, or I vary when I release it. Both of these things are legitimate. So it might be I have got to build these things that will take 120 days. Therefore, I can't release it until then, because I'm driven by the content. Okay? In our case, we decided we want to be driven by the time. So what we vary is the content. That's why we have a backlog, and we pick just enough stuff that we can fit it into the time allowed. Because we decided that the predictability of the releasing is what our customers told us that's what they wanted. Yeah? Regular, predictable, because when my customers put my software in, they have to do stuff. You know, it doesn't just happen by magic. It isn't Spotify, it's not consumer. They have to configure it, they have to train their people to use it, they've got all sorts of tasks that they have to do. If they want to be able to plan ahead for doing those, okay? So, from our customer's point of view, it makes sense that the time is fixed. Therefore, we vary the content. Does that principle make sense? Okay. And it's normal that time and resources, that's the most normal way for enterprise software to be built and released. You cannot throw more engineers at the problem, okay? Life doesn't work like that. 9 women cannot have a baby in 1 month. It does take 1 woman 9 months to have a baby. Fact. Engineering software is a bit like that as well. A 50-day user story for 1 engineer is just that. It is not a 10-day user story for 5 engineers, okay? You've got to chunk it up to the most sensible size. Estimating, I think, is just about the hardest thing to really, really do well. And if you can learn that, and you can build a skill on that, do you know what scrums are? You know about scrums and scrum masters and all that kind of shit? Get the estimating right, okay? The guys will tell you that that is the biggest trick. If you want to be super employable, get super good at that, okay? Figure out story points, whatever it is. And when you talk to the guys, Russell, Joe, Ewan, ask them about this stuff. Go and talk to them afterwards. They've got plenty of time, they've got long journeys to make. And, you know, ask them about it. Learn tricks from them, okay? Okay, so I talked to you earlier about the notion of the MVP. Anyone tell me what an MVP is?
Minimum viable product.
What do I mean by that?
The smallest product you can create that you can then sell.
Yes, that somebody will pay money for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it's a freemium model, then they'll still take it, right? Okay. Just enough features, so not bloatware, make it smaller and smaller. There was a brilliant company in Dundee that I helped called Hound Dog. They did IT systems, network monitoring software. They're called GFI now, because we sold it to a business in the States. And they were really, really good at the MVP. They had mouse mats, so the business is called Hound Dog, and they had mouse mats and t-shirts where I monitor my servers doggy style. You know, everybody wanted these t-shirts at the trade shows. It was great, it was really good business. So release it early, release it often. That's a great example of an MVP. You couldn't do anything with text. All you could do was write it and delete it, right? That's fine. Nobody cared. Do you remember the first? There was no picture handling on the first version of Facebook. Can you believe that? Version 1 didn't support pictures, didn't support photos. You could write nasty things about other people, but you couldn't put a picture of them up, you know, looking like a hound dog. So yeah, this intern who worked for your man came and put it And yeah, the first version of Gmail was written in one day and released. Hard to believe. Didn't do very much. People used it though. You get momentum. Okay, these are real MVPs. So different kinds of MVPs. I mean, again, this is like estimation. It's a really hard thing. I'm making it sensible. It's a hard thing to make decisions about. But there are all kinds of different ways of looking at an MVP. So, you know, and remember, what you're looking for is what's in that center of the Venn diagram. What are the things that the most number of people are going to ask for? And an MVP can be stuff you're just adding. It can be more features, but you do an MVP on the new feature and then you grow it. And if nobody uses it, you dump it. So remember, we're looking for what the market needs. It's going to solve a problem. What we want the product to do, not how we want it to do it. Okay? This is absolutely vital. And when you write your requirements, when you do your presentation, please bear this in mind. All these slides are going to be available. So we need to be market-led. If you look at the way that we promoted Workplace when we were selling it, we described ourselves as a 100% market-led business. Okay? I have no opinion as to what my customers want. My customers do, right? But I have no opinion. I'm not entitled. I'm not a retailer. I have no entitlement to say what they want. Okay. So, have you heard of this dude? Go and look him up. You can click that thing. If you want to get involved with an early stage business or start an early stage business, there's a couple of things that are worth reading. So the Eric Ries book, the first chapter, the Lean Startup. Excuse me, may I take that? See if you can get a hold of this. Well, you can because it's in the library. Have you ever heard of this book? It was written by an English professor in Silicon Valley around about the turn of the century. It's far being able to say that. And what it basically does is it tells you why products die, why they get born, why they get changed, and why they die. It's a really readable book. It's not like a business book. It is actually well written. What it says is that before you launch a product, there's no money involved with that market. You then launch it, certain people will buy it, a lot of people will buy it, it becomes a bit old hat and less popular, and then it dies. Yeah, okay, I get that, that's really obvious. What it then says is the people who buy it at different stages of this market are different people. So this is a geek, and I gave birth to a geek, believe it or not. I gave birth to a dude who is both technical and creative, and he's doing a BA in production technology at the Royal Conservatoire, right? I don't understand anything he says, but that's fine, apart from when he says that he loves me, and that's cool. So he does all this kind of stuff, and he buys stuff. So he bought a Pebble. Do you know what a Pebble is? A Pebble is what an Apple Watch was before the Apple Watch was born, right? Do you know what a Diamond Rio is? Diamond Rio is the iPod before the iPod was born. Apple has never created a product category, ever, not one. All they've done is, so I had a Nokia communicator. A Nokia communicator was this size, opened up. It was best for doing a sort of thing with a ball that you played along the screen, but you could type your email. It was the first proper smartphone. It was enormous and very heavy. You needed a small trailer to take it with you anywhere. And then Apple came up with the iPhone. So they basically kind of copied stuff. This book, Crossing the Chasm, describes that process. So geeks will buy things that don't quite work right because they like to take them apart and fix them. That's the first person who will buy a product. The next person buys it for competitive advantage. The next set of people buy it because everybody else is buying it. The next set of people buy it because it's become cheap. And those people never realize they buy it. So this is the dude who owns a big high-end fancy car and says he hates electronics. I mean, they run the car now, right? So the genius of this book is what it says is that none of those is connected to the other. What I've just told you is there are 5 groups of people who will buy a product and their motivation is different. And a market is people who have what?
Money
and
pain.
Pain, the same pain. So this guy doesn't have the same pain as this guy here. This guy needs it to be cheap. This guy needs it to be cool and fun and not quite working. Okay? So the human being's motivation for buying things at different stages varies. And the genius of this book is it says, here's how you jump from one to the other, right? If you want to go through the whole product life cycle. And the chasm is between the two early stage small markets and the big market where people buy it because everybody else is buying it. And that's where you need to get to, and that's how you make big sales, okay? And the gap in there is called the chasm, and he talks to you about how you get across it. It's a really good book, I do recommend it. This guy, just go and look at his blog. He talks really well about what he calls these 7 deadly sins. And his favourite one is the I know what features to build flaw, right? So he just really, really makes the argument very well. And he's an Allied professor at Stanford in Silicon Valley. And also he'll give you some clues as well, some stuff that will help you with your assignment. Okay, so here's some decisions you as a group are going to have, okay? You're going to have to decide what types of requirements you need to gather. And therefore that will inform what questions you put on your question set in order to then go and conduct the interviews with these guys. Where are you going to get this information? So let's have some ideas. You're going to do these interviews, that's one thing. Where else are you going to get some information?
On the internet, things like that.
Can you be a wee bit more specific?
Basically just doing like research on other products that might be in the market.
So you could look up some competition. So
yeah.
what are you going to type into the search engine?
Product manager, help tool, something like that.
Product manager, help tool. Yeah, you could do that. You could look at competition, as I say. You could go and look at blank stuff. Go and look up product management process, and so on. Have a look at engineering tools. There's a thing called Product Tank, which is a kind of a think tank about product management good practice. There's a thing called Pragmatic Marketing, which has a sort of framework for how you do this stuff. You'd be surprised, there is an awful lot of shit out there about this topic, right? Because a lot of people are trying to adopt it, trying to learn it, trying to improve it. So my only point here is don't restrict your thinking, and you can learn a huge amount. And I'll say this one last time, if you have learned this stuff and you go into an interview and you can talk about this stuff, it will make a difference, it will differentiate you. The people that have done this module, as Annalou said, are very employable. So, how are you going to figure this one out?
Well, when you know what kind of customers you want to attract, you kind of can have like you can make a general statistics of how many people are in the group, I guess, and by that you can kind of determine your size. I mean, it's all tactile, but just an idea. But you definitely need to look at what types of people are going to use the software that you're going to sell to them, and then using the geographics, you can kind of establish how big is your market. Of course, you don't have to restrict yourself, but
so you could have a hypothesis. I know that the American software market is 25 times bigger than the Israeli software market, and I know that there are this many Israeli software companies. So if I do a simple bit of maths, and therefore you can extrapolate, you can establish something and extrapolate. So Polly Purvis, whose birthday it is tomorrow, happy birthday Polly, is the chief exec of Scotland IS. Scotland IS is the trade body for software in this country. And everywhere, every country in the world has a trade body. Go and look there. Okay? There's all kinds of ways in which you can establish how many product managers there are in the world. Okay? How many software companies are there in the world? Okay? There's all kinds of ways to do it. But these are real big questions. So Ewan and Russell and Joe have to find these questions out, because I ain't going to invest in a new product unless they can tell me. So I knew how many retail companies of a given size there were in the world. I knew how many people they employed in how many stores. Therefore, I could justify raising £10 million to build and take to market the mobile app. Okay? And we didn't spend all of that, but to justify it. And our investors went for it, and it was successful. But we had to get these statistics first. So what you're going to do then is you're going to write up what it is that we're going to build. So you need to give people a really clear description of what it is that our product has to do. Okay? And you're going to do it by creating user stories. If any of you have never created a user story, or you don't understand what a user story is, you need to help each other. Okay? So things get done by collaboration. And some people have done this through slides, diagrams, whatever. You can do a wireframe if you want. You could build a mock-up, build a prototype. A couple of groups have done that in the past. It doesn't, you know, with all the tools that are available now, it doesn't take long to create a simple user interface. So that's entirely up to you. And it's good fun. The most important thing about the user story is that it's just that. And it always starts with as a, and then you put the user's persona in. I want to, or I need to, right? And you can then describe the thing that you want to do. You can then put some conditions on it, okay, that can guide people. But it needs to be something that can help an engineer understand what it is that they should be designing for and building. So remember, when you do your presentation, you're going to say, okay, board of directors, this is our business, this is what we're trying to do, this is the position we're trying to get in the market. We think that if we had a product that was broadly like this, so it could be SaaS, it could be on-premise, it could be mobile, it could be browser-based entirely, or it could be a native app, you decide, right? You figure out what you think it should be like. It could be a single piece of software, it could be a whole bunch of modules. You can design it, that's the beauty of software, you can design it in so many different ways. We're going to solve these business problems here. I'm going to make sure we've got a lot of people that want it, right? Not just one person, because if there aren't a lot of people that want it, I don't think we should be doing this. So the places that we would go to gather requirements in the business are these places here. They'll all have a slightly different opinion. These guys here will shout the loudest, without question, and they'll tell you, I cannot make my quota next quarter unless you do this. And about 10% of the time that's true, but the other 90% of it, it's not. So you just have to deal with that, and that's what working in a company and collaborating with different people is like. Here are the places that we would go if we were going to go and look. Now, you know, the chance that you can't go to one of these. I bet you though, I bet you there is an agile development group in Dundee. So there are a few software companies, there's a hell of a lot of games companies. See if you can have a look. We did, we sponsored the SaaSops group in Milton Keynes. So the business is headquartered in Milton Keynes near London. And there was a SaaSops or a DevOps meetup. Look and see if there's a DevOps meetup in Dundee. And go along and tell them you're doing this course and they'll let you in. And go and find out what they do, right? And you know, they'll all have stickers like this on the back of their stuff. But if you can get into one of those or a product group meeting, just go and look up agile meetups in Dundee and stuff like that. And they're really, really interesting. And if they've got anything about them, they ought to welcome you guys in. So these are the kind of places that we should be going to gather our requirements. Okay, we've done that really quickly. So what I want you to do for next time, please, and this will be part of what you present back, is I want you to find some competition, okay? So I want you to find software that claims it can do what's in the first bullet point. So there's lots of clues there about what you have to put into your search engine, particularly about the curation and the grooming of user stories, okay? And if you're not familiar with those words, look them up. Wikipedia has got loads of stuff about this and so on. You'll find it on pragmatic marketing, you'll find it in the product tank stuff and all of that. So when Ewan gets up here, I want you to be prepared to come down the front and say, here are the 4 products that we found. and we discovered that these are the key things. This is what they say they do. This is the benefits that they say they bring to their users, okay? Because I want you to start thinking more and more and more about benefits rather than technology, okay? You mustn't forget about technology because that's your profession, but for this course, I want you to think about benefits. Okay, so just 4 names, and this is what this one does, this is what this one does, this is what this one does, okay? And that'll be the start of you putting your assignment together. Because what would you think if you found no competition?
Gap in the market.
Exactly.
Or nobody wants it.
Pretty much the same thing, but yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a great phrase the Americans have, the pioneers get the arrows and the settlers get the land. Okay, so, you know, you probably don't want to be first in there, so actually, if there's competition, that's scary. Really? Nah. We had a $2 billion business that we competed with called Kronos. We beat them 8 times out of 10 to any size of deal. Because we were nicer. They were a horrible corporation. And we employ lovely people. Okay. That's us. Is any of that completely baffled or bemused? Or? Okay, so you've got the basic logic as to why we do this business logic. Ewan will be here next week. Fantastic guy. He's done years and years as a product manager. He's now a product strategist, and I think you'll really enjoy listening to him. Get him afterwards, ask questions. You know, please ask more questions than you've been asking me. But you'll learn a huge amount from him. Okay? All right. Thank you. I think she's going to tell you. But I think she'll talk to you about it. So she's going to do it. The best thing is to have a mix. So try and mix it up as much as you can, because then you get different skills in your team.
Is the assignment a group assignment or is it
Group.
It's a group assignment. You keep saying next week, but do you mean this Thursday because it's a Tuesday now?
Oh yeah, I was supposed to be on Thursday, but I had a hospital appointment, so I had to move it. So next week is Thursday.
Okay, so we need this assignment for Thursday.
Correct. Is that okay? Yeah. It is. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye. Of course. You're welcome. Okay.